Alright guys, what's happening? Just a quick reminiscence, Fury versus what? I was just watching the highlights, getting caught up after hearing all the furore and all that there. Um, Simon Jordan, whoever else giving off, like, it's always good to see. I always enjoy watching those things, people getting stuck in. But I think you have to go and watch the fights for yourself, don't you too? Like, you can't just take the word of these spurious pundits. You have to go and watch it for yourself. So I checked up on the Fury walk highlights, and I didn't think it was a bad showing for Fury, and not quite as bad as what people are making out. He's a wee bit slow, but he was sure-footed. All of his combinations, all of his sort of mechanisms and stuff were all there. Do you know what I mean? It was just a little bit slower. It was kind of like slow motion Tyson Fury, but he was in against a big guy, a big tall guy. Sometimes it was hard to tell who was who. When they were coming out for the next round, you didn't know. You didn't know which was which. But as soon as Fury started punching, if you have any sense about you, like you kind of picked up on things. And fought mostly out of the orthodox position. Thought his jab was lovely, like landed the right hand to the body and behind the elbow of what quite a bit. There seemed to be a bit of emphasis on that shot for whatever reason, You do the math, Went southpaw every now and then for a while, continued moving to his left, and fought from a very sort of parallel, perpendicular position, and just firing out the jab. I think sometimes Fury fights nearly in a manner that's nearly like some of these old guys in the 1900s and stuff, just the way he carries himself sometimes. But lovely skills, I thought, albeit a little bit more slowed down, not quite as sharp. But I thought that was the point exactly. This is a warm-up fight before heading in for the big one. And you don't want to show your hand completely, do you? Do you know what I mean? You don't want to give it all away. So, anyway, besides that, caught up on the Joshua Prangle highlights as well. Bit of a funny one, like. Bit of a funny one. It's hard to say what was going on there, Joshua went down very easy in the first 2 rounds, I thought. But that can happen sometimes, you get caught by a flash knockdown. It reminded me of Carl Frampton fought a guy called Gonzalez. The guy was only 23 or something. Apparently the crack was, they were in the same hotel, and Frampton was looking across at him the night before, going, skinny kid, like, you know what I mean, with nothing really to be afraid of here. Coming off the back of a nice run, I suppose. World champion, what have you. I think it was one of the first performances in America, so probably should have been a bit more on his, but he went in and this skinny kid cracked him a couple of times in the first round and had him down, But again, it was a surprise thing, and they were flash knockdowns, and I do believe it, the way that Joshua was caught there, with that dodgy uppercut and whatever the other shot was, it wasn't like he was completely, collapsed. Maybe it was a mindset thing and stuff like that. Who knows? A little bit more sketchy maybe into the second round when you're thinking to yourself, surely Pringle's gonna step on the gas here and come out, and show the initiative, and get the job done. But I guess maybe he, saw the headlines or whatever, and it spooked him a little bit. He didn't quite know what to do. Joshua then, snatched the initiative from him and said, well, I'll show you how to do it here, and landed a couple of good shots. And eventually finished him off, I think, with maybe a left hook and a big right hand or something like that. I'm not sure exactly. But it is what it is, you know what I mean? There's been a few wee telltales back and forth, as that, was the fight fixed, or this and that? And I mean, if the fight was fixed, why would the guys in control of the match fixing have Joshua go down twice in the first round? That's hardly a big sell, is it? You know what I mean? Unless you're trying to throw us for a loop. Who knows? But the likes of your Lucky Lucianos and whoever else these big mob bosses were back in the day, they don't really seem to exist nowadays, do they? You know what I mean? So I don't know if that sort of thing really takes place as much as what some sort of conspiracy theorists would like to kind of propagate, Who am I? What do I know? The other wee thing I watched, guys, was Teofimo Lopez and Romero had a face-off. It was very congenial, because the two of them's friends. Apparently, Romero was having a bad time a few years ago, and Lopez lent him 5k. They're like, man, you lent me that 5k, It sorted him out at that time, and he never forgot it. And they fought in the amateurs and things like this, and Romero spoke very strongly. I hadn't been watching so much boxing at the time whenever he had fought and beat Ryan Garcia, which I'll have to catch up on that and do my homework, But Romero was very comfortably sitting there and, shooting across, to the host or, Lopez are both saying, we're both future Hall of Famers. That was how he led off, and then he went on to say something else, and I was going to myself, seriously? Ronnie Romero, future Hall of Famer, Because my memory of him is like back when he fought Gervonta Davis, and he turned up to the press conference, and he was, dressed in some ridiculous, like, cat skin jacket or something. And he was coming out with all sort of corny lines and things like that. But it seems that he's sort of proven himself a bit more as a fighter since, and this is the way things have unfolded, So, again, who am I to say, maybe one day Rolly Romero will be a Hall of Famer. I'm sure Teofimo Lopez will be. Ryan Garcia, these guys, It's interesting how he's come into the fold, Boxing's funny, isn't it? It does throw you for a loop. Sometimes, But yeah, that's all I got to say anyway, guys. Be good, and as far as predictions or anything like that for the Joshua Fury fight, it's still a bit early. Like these two performances haven't been very well received. Fans, as far as what I can gather, are like disgusted. And this is that. Looked like a couple of guys fighting outside the pub and such, and Joshua's shot. And massive debate all over, everybody's had their say, including Darren Till, some MMA fighter as well, but he's always good for a bit of scandal, isn't he? So, the world of boxing, man, the world of boxing. Anyway, guys, take it easy, like I say, and be good to yourselves, and keep punching and all that other stuff. Good night.